guys, it's your girl from Philly. Welcome to another episode of Handcrafted Wines, where we make great wine at home the fun and easy way. Before we get started, please remember to like, share, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you don't miss any episodes. In today's episode, we're going to be making Mango Habanero Wine. Our ingredients are 3 pounds of Autolfo or honey mangoes that were very ripe, 1 pound of orange habanero peppers, 2.5 cups of white sugar. Our usual players are going to be our pectic enzyme to break down the cell walls of our peppers and our fruit, our acid blend, the dynamic duo, which is our yeast nutrient and our yeast energizer. And for our yeast, we're using Red Star Premier Classique yeast. So let's get started. Now, the very first thing I'm going to do is dissolve our 2.5 cups of sugar with hot water in our fermenter. Now, I know you're probably asking, Philly girl, why are you making habanero wine? Well, for me, this is going to be a cooking wine. But for people who like hot peppers or who enjoy the taste of hot peppers, pepper heads, this could be a drinking wine for them. When I go into the aging process of this wine, I'm actually going to add garlic cloves to it. So it has a mango habanero garlic taste to it. And I'll use it on things like fish, grilled chicken, anything that's a light meat, as well as seafood. All right, so I'm going to dissolve this. Get this stirred up. And the reason I'm wearing gloves is because I'm protecting my hands from the capsaicin in the habanero peppers. And the sugar that we're adding is really just food for our yeast. It's not to sweeten this wine. I expect this wine to ferment to completely dry, which is why I'm using 2.5 cups instead of a 3 or 4 cups in a batch. I belong to a YouTube group, a Facebook group, and it's a cooks group where people talk about the recipes that they make and different facts about food. It's a lot of fun. And someone had brought up, why in the world would anybody eat hot peppers? For one, it's an acquired taste, but two, capsaicin in the levels that you would get in a habanero pepper or anything higher, like a ghost pepper, a Scotch bonnet pepper, they release, when you eat them, endorphins. And even though it's hot to the mouth, those endorphins tell your brain that you're going through something pleasurable. So you get a sense of euphoria from it, which is why some people become, addicted to eating things with a lot of spice. It actually makes you feel good. Okay, that's completely dissolved. Now I'm going to blitz my bag with Star San. And before I add the peppers to the straining bag, I'm going to move this out the way. I'm going to cut up the last, I think it's 2 left in here that haven't been cut in half. And all I'm doing is taking the whole pepper and cutting it in half, because again, we're going to blitz it with our immersion blender. Oh, there's one more. Now, the rule when it comes to habanero peppers are the tinier the pepper, the hotter it is. These are a nice sized pepper, which means they're not extremely hot, but they do hold some heat. And I'm going to be keeping the seeds in because I do want the heat in my wine for cooking. And I'm going to move my cutting board, put you there, and add my straining bag to my fermenter. The reason I'm going to put the habaneros in first is because I'm going to blitz this, and I prefer to start the blitzing off with the fruit at the top, even though they're going to meld together. Now, once I get the peppers in, I can remove these gloves, but I'm going to add them by hand. Whoop, drop one right away. That one's going in. Now, I was very happy to find orange habanero peppers. The produce store that I went to also had the blend of colors, the green, the red, the orange, the yellow. But I prefer whenever I make this type of wine that it's all one color. With the mangoes and the habaneros, it's probably going to be a pale orange or maybe even a golden color. If you were to use the mixed blend, I mean, it's okay. You would have a great wine, but you would end up with a kind of muddy brownish color. Okay, so we have all of our habaneros in there. Now I'm going to add our mangoes, and I can take these gloves off now. So my hands have been protected. Now there's a lot of volume, so what I may do is start off with some of the mango and then and blitz it along with the habanero, and then add the rest of the mango to the batch. Because once these habanero peppers have been blitzed down, they're not going to take up much space. It's just the shape of the pepper that's making it take up space. Now these mangoes are extremely ripe. I actually got them on sale, but they were in great condition. All right, I'm going to add some, at this point I can add cool water, just because we need to make a slurry out of the peppers and mango. And I'd like to add enough to at least cover them. That looks good. I'll add a little bit more mango before, maybe I'll start now. Now, the smart thing to do is to keep this away from your face when you're blitzing it. Just because the habaneros will produce some vapor. They're breaking down nicely. Okay. I'm going to let that rest in this bowl for a second while I add the rest of the mangoes. Another great thing about any type of pepper is they help to reduce inflammation. So if inflammation is an issue for you and you can stomach eating hot peppers, they're a great way to help take inflammation out of your joint, your knees, your back. It really is a health food. Now again, if you wanted to have it as a sipping wine, just keep out the garlic. I'd probably add about 6 cloves of garlic to it when I'm at the finishing stages of my wine. and just let it age with the garlic. The reason why I'm not putting the garlic in now is because garlic would kill the yeast, so it would prevent it from fermenting. Garlic is antimicrobial, antifungal, and it would definitely or it would halt the yeast from reproducing in a good way. You wouldn't have an effective batch. Another thing about cooking wines, and it's great to make your own cooking wine because you really know what to expect, is you don't want them to be sweet. Well, maybe you do, depending on what type of cooking wine that you're making. I prefer them not to be sweet, so I would never add a lot of sugar to the must. And even though I'm going to do a gravity reading, the ABV of your cooking wine doesn't matter so much. And you could fortify something like this with herbs. Once it's fermented, spices, but anything with a salt in it, you wouldn't want to add until it's completed its fermentation process. Same thing as with the garlic. It would stop the yeast from producing. But you can definitely flavor it any way that you like once it's done. And you can make wine out of basically any pepper. I've used ancho chilies. I've used jalapenos. Just have fun with it. With the ancho chili wine, I would add onion after fermentation. And maybe a little garlic. Okay, that's done. I think I'm gonna leave that in the bowl. We're gonna blitz it again with the immersion blender. Again, away from my face. Make sure my bag doesn't slide in. You always want to check to make sure you're not getting your bag caught. These nylon straining bags are usually pretty good. They don't really seem to wrap around the immersion blender. Okay, I'm satisfied with this puree. Let's get this extra off of the immersion blender. It's really caught in there, isn't it? Okay, that's good enough. I'm not going to be smelling this one. But I am going to close our bag. And I would like to keep the seeds out. So I'm going to double tie this. Because once it's all done, I would remove the seeds along with the rest of the pulp. So I can have a clear wine. Maybe one more time. And I may, even though I clean my straining bags, I may mark this with a piece of red thread just to remind myself that I used peppers with this, because even though it would be clean, capsaicin is very hard to wash away. We're going to get this in there. There we go. Okay, so that's securely tied. And now we can, and I don't expect a lot of blowout, so I will add a little bit more water to this. That's about good. Now we're going to add our usual players, starting with our pectic enzyme, our acid blend, and I could have used lemon instead. It would have worked just as fine. Our dynamic duo, which is our yeast nutrient and our yeast energizer. And if you notice, I'm not using any tannin today. The reason why is because we don't really care about the mouthfeel of our cooking wine. It's going to be combined with our food. So we don't need to have that back of the mouth feel that tannin provides. And this is very, very thick and dense. So I'm very curious to see what my reading is going to be. And I have a lot of substrate in here, so I'm expecting to maybe yield about that much wine. Okay, we're going to take our reading. The vapors from the peppers are getting to me, but not strong because I'm kind of keeping it away from my face. And I wear gloves when I handle any type of pepper because I always forget and end up touching my face or my eyes or my mouth, and that is not fun. We're almost at goal. All right, there we go. And let's split our hydrometer. I changed my bottle because I was working on 5-gallon batches, and that small bottle just didn't do the trick. Okay, it's actually good. We're in a good place. We're at the first, I just got a whiff. We're at the first blue line, which is 1.100. So this is going to have some strength to it. I'm going to go to, well, let me check my hydrometer first to see what my hydrometer says that would be. I have to go to the percentages and then go to potential alcohol. So this is saying that it should be about 14%. Let me check with Brewer's Friend and see what they say. So Brewer's Friend says that the 1.100 should ferment to 14.44%. And the Premier Classique yeast that we're using is capable of going that high. But of course, in my usage of this, I'm going to cook the alcohol off in my food. But if it's your sipping wine, then that would be a nice ABV. All right, so the last thing we have to do is to add our yeast. And with our usual players, we're using a half teaspoon for everything except the yeast nutrient. That calls for 1 teaspoon. Now, I have worked with habaneros with yeast before, and what I found was it takes a little bit longer for it to get started, but it does start. I'm going to see what happens today. Make sure I get it off the walls. It's not going to do us any good there. Okay. Well, the yeast are hydrating nicely. I wouldn't be upset if it took a little longer to begin fermenting, seeing some action in my airlock. I know that it's going to eventually start, but actually this one looks like it's acclimating. I'm already seeing some bubbles. So they are kind of grabbing onto some of the sugars here. I hope they like hot peppers. All right, so we're going to add our lid with our drilled hole and grommet. And add our airlock. This is a pretty quick batch to make. The process time for preparing the mango and the peppers didn't take that long. I think I was able to do both in about 10, maybe 12 minutes. So it wasn't that long at all. All right, we're at our max fill line, and I'm going to spray the tip of it just to make sure it slides in easy. Okay, that's good. Looks like sunshine, doesn't it? It's so bright and pretty, and it's going to be so hot. I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to cooking with it and finding some new recipes. Here's our lid. All right, that's it for our Mango Habanero Wine. Again, our ingredients were 3 pounds of mango, 1 pound of habaneros, 2.5 cups of sugar, and our usual players, except tannin, because we don't need tannin in a wine that we plan to cook with. Well, that's it for this episode of Handcrafted Wines. Please again remember to like, share, subscribe, click the notification bell, leave some comments. Enjoy making your own wine. Thank you for spending this time with me and have a great day. Bye-bye.